Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to another episode of unboxing cookbooks that you've sent in. So I do these things in batches. I'm way behind. There's another big pile over there too. I used to open them as they came in and then I would just start using the cookbooks. Julie said I should unbox them on camera. And so we've started doing that. And I shoot 4 or 5. This is from Florida, by the way. We shoot 4 or 5 of these in a row. And I edit them and then they come out, as they come out. I have noticed that on the weeks when one of these unboxing videos happens on the Wednesday, I get much lower views on the Saturday and Sunday videos, and then the knock-on effect is that sort of lower viewership happens into the following week. And I know that's because YouTube punishes channels that have videos that do poorly. So these videos, the unboxing videos, are the ones that get the least amount of views out of all of the videos that I make. And that knock-on effect is that the next video that comes out, YouTube does not promote it as much because, well, the last video was a dud. So I'm really struggling with how do I continue doing this? How do I incorporate this into a way that makes it more meaningful for you, the viewer, and also that doesn't get me in trouble with the YouTube algorithm. Unfortunately, YouTube is a game, and if you don't play YouTube's game, you get lost in the shuffle. And I don't want to lose out on, people watching on Saturday and Sunday when I'm doing recipes. So this may be the last batch. That's a long-winded way of saying this may be the last batch of unboxings I do on camera because it just hurts me in the algorithm. That pains me so much to say that. A knock-on effect of that is also that I'm considering taking the cocktail videos and pushing them off onto their own channel, where they will probably do better on their own, and again, they won't hurt the main cooking channel. Anyway, on to the books. So immediately I'm looking at these and I'm seeing, the Worcester Salt Cookbook. That's an amazing one. I've got a couple of copies of something like that. Aunt Jenny's Favorite Recipes from Spry. Spry was a vegetable shortening. I don't know where they ended up. I don't know who bought them out, whether they still exist. Another Metropolitan Cookbook. They show up all the time, and I can see another one here. This is another Metropolitan Cookbook. I really like those books. As I talk about them often, they are books where, the recipes are quality recipes, and they're usually quite healthy. Thank you very much for sending these in. I've never seen this one before. This is from a milling company, flour milling company. And let's see if there's a date. I'm going to say this is pre-1900. I don't understand why these companies never put their dates in the front. Mostly probably because they were advertising ephemera. They were meant to be used, and then abused and then thrown away. And they probably figured that within 6 months of this landing in your kitchen, you would have already torn out the recipes that you like, and the rest of it would be used to start the oven. But this is definitely pre-1900. Oh, and another one. Same company. This one is a little bit, it's hard to tell. So this one looks like it's missing the front cover, and it's compliments of your grocer. And the grocer has signed the front of it. As a quick look, it looks as though it's exactly the same book inside. Thank you so much for sending these in. Definitely some keepers in that batch. Okay, moving along. Gonna keep this moving. Jell-O, the joys of Jell-O. Okay, so this is a little bit later. This is probably from the late 60s, early 70s, maybe even later. It's hard to tell because Jell-O salads really hung on until the early 80s. Rumford baking powder. Lots of these about. I don't have this one. I don't have this one. It is written by a very famous Lily Hacksworth Wallace. She was a very prolific recipe writer. Worked for a lot of these big food companies. Again, this one doesn't look like it's dated. I'd really have to dig into all of my other ones to see where this one fits in by date. Knox Gelatin, another company. I don't know if I have this one. When was this? This is 1943. Knox Gelatin is another one of those companies that really worked hard in putting out these recipe books, promoting their product, telling you, the consumer, how to use their product. A consumer that knew what they were doing was going to buy the product. Thank you for sending those in. Okay. Oh. Okay, so I have never seen this before. Wow. It's a duotang. Well, no, I mean, I've seen duotangs, although this is Smeed's Pressboard Genuine Cover. The cover of this book is just as interesting as what's going on inside. Wow. Who is Soothsayer Flour? This is wild. So, this is done on a typewriter. Soothsayer Flour Recipe Service, the Willis Norton Company, 2nd of February 1939. It's all done on a typewriter. And then the pages are put into this, I would call a duotang. I mean, in high school and public school, when I was a little kid, that's what we called them. And on the back side of each page, because it's only printed on one side of the paper, on the back side, on most of these, there's a handwritten recipe for whoever had owned it. Wow. Okay. Okay, so this gets even wilder. I'm going to say this was some kind of recipe club. Some kind of recipe club, and you mailed into them, and they mailed you pages with the recipes. And then maybe you bought the cover, because the cover is made by the flour company. You bought the cover separately in order to put your recipe club recipes in. Because every third or fourth page, there's another Soothsayer Flour recipe service with a different date on it. Okay, this is wild. Never seen this before. I've never heard anybody talk about this before. This has never come up in sort of any of my research. Wild. And the recipes seem to come from people who, they're all named by someone and where they live. St. Mary's, West Virginia, Saybrook, Illinois, Topeka, Kansas, West Frankfort. Wow. And then the person who has owned this has put their own pages in the back, just, 3-hole punched, lined paper in the back with their handwritten recipes. That is amazing. Absolutely an amazing find. Thank you so much for sending that to me. Watkins Cookbook, giant corporation that, made their own spices and extracts. Huge mail order company. This one is 1934. I don't have this one. Really nice. Used, well used, spilled on, torn. Splotches of bran muffin, or maybe the spice cake, or one of the other cakes on this page, splotches of it all over the paper. I love to see that. I love to see that these books have been used. Wherever pots and pans, U.S. Department of Agriculture. I wonder what year. The U.S. Department of Agriculture used to put out a lot of these books. Same in Canada. The various Canadian government agencies put these out. You don't see them as much anymore. It's probably all online. And this has pages marked off. Thank you so much for these. We'll do one more in this video. Which one are we going to do? Let's do this one. Well, recognize this. Art of Cooking and Serving. And when I say that I recognize this, this is a series of books put out by Proctor and Gamble. This one is 1930, I think I saw. 1930. They put these out in order to promote Crisco shortening. And Crisco shortening in the early days was promoted as this, it really was an aspirational product. It was, they tried to position it as top of the heap. And these books did a really good job of it. Most of the recipes are really good. And whenever I make stuff from this series of books, because they updated it continually, they were constantly working in their test kitchens to come up with better recipes. And slip Crisco into more and more recipes at the same time. Whenever I make stuff out of here, I just slip in butter or lard instead of using vegetable shortening. Not a huge fan of vegetable shortening. These are great books. The pictures are great in them, and they really do show a little bit of a shift in the advertising tone of food products. Okay, so I want to thank everyone who sent in books today. The way this works, if you haven't watched one of these before, is I'm going to choose from one of these and make a recipe on Sunday from one of the books that arrived. And I'll do a little bit more research on the book so that we can talk a little bit more about it. Thank you so much for sending these in. I love getting these packages. I love adding to the collection. I am making arrangements for this entire collection to go to a research library where they can be displayed and made available for food research and historical research. I think this is a really underserved area of historical research. So I thank you for sending them in, and we will see you on Sunday.